Not very often is there a queen I am so excited to see get on Drag Race like I was with Charity Kase. I have been following her for years, watching her 365 Days of Drag, along with all of the insane looks she's been turning on her Instagram for years. She is one of my favorite drag artists, period. I was expecting to see her get on Dragula, honestly, more than Drag Race. So when she was announced on the cast of Drag Race UK3, I was beyond excited. We had just seen a kind of spooky out there queen like Crystal Method really excel at the competition, and it proved that you don't have to be glam all the time to do well at Drag Race. I was ready to watch Charity sweep this season and show a side of drag that is rarely, if ever, seen on the show. Sure, we've had spooky queens in the past. She Who Shall Not Be Named won season 4 and changed the game forever. She was followed by queens like Evie Oddly, Crystal Method, Aiden Zane, but none of those queens take the horror elements of their drag quite as far as Charity does. Charity has a certain dirtiness, grunginess, and grossness to her drag that is honestly more in tune with what you would see on Dragula. So I was ready to see her break barriers, introduce the world to a different aesthetic, and take the crown home for all of those weirdos out there. But instead, what we got was the producers and the judges overlooking her, unfairly critiquing her, and wanting her to tone down her drag in order to fit the competition. So let's talk about the mistreatment of Charity Kase. But first, if you are not already, make sure that you are following me on Instagram and Twitter, as well as subscribing to the channel. And if you are able, come check out the Patreon, where you get access to the Discord server, to a patron-only video every month, as well as my new Detective Diary series, where I will give my critiques on the Queen's performance every single week of Drag Race UK and for other seasons moving forward. Alright, let's get back into the maddening treatment of Charity Kase this season. So, Charity was the last queen to walk into the workroom all the way back in episode 1, and this gave me some very high hopes. I mean, the last queen to walk in is oftentimes someone with a big name and left as a last-minute surprise to the other queens, like Aquaria in Season 10, Soju in Season 11, Aja in Season 9. But very quickly, as the first episode aired, I realized things were not looking good for Charity. Now, the first episode is the mini ball, where the queens have to show off a look based on their hometown, and then a second look based off of one of their favorite things. So let's look at what Charity did every episode. So this one, she bases her first look off of the Lancashire Rose, and also I don't know how to pronounce that city. If I did that wrong, sorry. And she turned herself into a literal evil rose. Now, the details in this look are insane. From the makeup, to the thorns on the leggings and the gloves, to the cute headpiece. I mean, it is a head-to-toe fully realized concept, and had a lot of people online gooped. Now, in the small time that they had to get ready in between looks, it's usually like, I think, an hour, hour and a half, she managed to completely transform into an evil clown with a you-know-what-in-the-box gag. How she managed to do this in such a short time is insane to me. And yet the judges had the audacity to tell Scarlett that she was the Meryl Streep of drag that night. Sure. Now, Charity is just safe in this episode, and I call that just rigged. Personal bias aside, Charity's looks were better than Scarlett Harlot's in every way. Now, there's nothing wrong with Scarlett's looks. They're both clean, well constructed, well executed. She looks great. But compared to the caliber of looks brought by Victoria, Crystal, and Charity, Scarlett's just aren't as grandiose. They don't make as big of a statement. And more importantly, they don't tell us who Scarlett is. Now, the second runway category is a great way to introduce yourself and show the judges exactly who you are. Charity picked freak show as her favorite thing, very on brand, tells us who she is, and with the look that she had for it, shows us the kind of queen that she is. Scarlett picks music, okay, and then gives us a Whitney Houston, I want to dance with somebody look to go with it. Now, she looks great, but is that really Scarlett Harlot branded in any way? I would say no, especially looking at the kind of drag that she's given us since then. We know by Crystal's looks, she's the fashion queen. We know by Victoria's, she's the camp queen. And by Charity, that she's the spooky queen. But Scarlett tells us she likes period pieces. I don't know. Charity, I think 100% deserved a spot in the top that week, maybe even a chance to lip sync for the win. But the fact that her incredibly executed runways were overlooked by the judges made me immediately worried for our Wicked Witch of drag moving forward. Now, episode 2 is not a good episode for Charity overall. She fumbles hard in the challenge and deservedly ends up in the bottom 3. What's interesting, though, is some of the critiques that she gets for her runway look. Now, this is the red carpet runway, and a lot of girls just wear, like, a basic gown. Charity does a smart move, and instead of giving more horror, which obviously did not earn her any roses the previous week, she goes a more glamorous route. She wears this gorgeous orange koi fish flapper moment, and the judges have to knock her down more by saying that it's wearing her. Literally wear. I mean, she owned that runway, and standing next to a lot of the girls who just threw on a random gown that they had in their closet, I thought it was pretty unfair to give Charity a hard time for this runway look, especially because it was serving something completely different than the previous week. Now, I will say, Charity probably should have been lip-syncing this episode. I mean, she flopped hard in the challenge, forgetting a lot of her dance moves, but it's obvious the producers wanted Elektra fence out and instead decide to randomly throw Vanity in the bottom as the other trained dancer to take Elektra out. The riggery of UK3 is going to be a wild one, you guys. I can't wait to get into it more. But for now, we're going to move on to episode 3, which is a really strange episode overall. It's the design challenge, and they have to make a look out of camping materials, as well as wear a second camp look brought from home. Now, for the Happy Campers category, which they brought from home, Charity wears this Killer Bunny Girl Scout look. And I would be lying if I said this look wasn't a bit of a letdown. I was hoping she'd go for some like Friday the 13th killer vibe, and overall this look was kind of all over the place. But she redeems herself with this gorgeous pink lemonade plaid look that she made herself. Now, what's strange about the episode, and we can get into this more when we get to the riggery episode for the season, is that even the girls who are in the top that week are critiqued pretty harshly. No one in the top 3 gets solid critiques overall. So how bad must the judges have felt about Charity's looks if she couldn't get into the top over 3 queens who the judges really didn't like to begin with? It's interesting. But we'll move on to the 4th episode, which is where things really kind of come to a head. It is the Girl Groups Challenge, which is a staple of the UK series, and an episode that everyone waits patiently for. So Charity is picked to be on Scarlett's team, where they are performing the pop version of the song. Now, Charity is pretty ballsy this episode with her choices, but I have to hand it to her, she managed to pull this challenge off a lot better than I expected her to. First, let's get into her performance look. It's like this haunted Dorothy moment. She looks gorge, and this is pretty understated for her, honestly. The weird thing is, the group goes for a silver theme to their looks, but when Charity tells them that she didn't bring anything silver, they all just kind of gloss over it and move on. It's a weird choice, and she does stand out a little bit because she's the only one wearing blue, but I don't think that's entirely Charity's fault. I mean, Scarlett was the group leader. Why didn't she make sure that they picked a theme of look that they all could execute? I mean, the other members maybe even could have worn something blue, like a shoe, a wig, anything to help pull Charity's look into the ensemble a little bit more. I mean, they really left her out to dry, but it seemed like Charity was the only one chastised for this by the judges. So let's get down to her verse. This was her verse for the challenge. It's Charity Kase, I am the glamour disgrace. The wicked witch of drag, have I got snot on my face. Yeah, I'm a sinner, gonna be a winner. All dressed up, looking like the dog's dinner. I might be a bottom, but it's hard to top me. Come on, Rue, give the crown to Charity. Now, those are some really solid lyrics. They're on brand, they tell us about her, and has some comedy thrown in as well. But when it came to the critiques, Rue tells her it was too dirty. Now, that seems like a critique that they pull out just whenever they want to put someone in the bottom. I mean, honestly, Rue and Michelle make how many blowjob references every episode, and Charity makes one bottom joke, and suddenly it's too much. I mean, you have Crystal and Kitty talking about their butts and how big their boobs are, and Rue's like, ha, we love that. Charity's like, haha, bottom joke. And Rue's like, you know what? This is too far. This is just too far. I mean, you had Bag of Chips win in season 1 talking about how she takes it up the and Rue and Michelle are like, ha, we love it. Now Charity says, I might be a bottom, but I'm going for the top. And Rue is like putting on her nun costume like, I can't handle this. Now let's go to the runway. Now it's Night of 1,000 Spice Girls. As River confirmed on Twitter, the girls were asked to bring their interpretation of a Spice Girls look. Well, looks like Charity understood the assignment then. Could she have added maybe one more Mel B reference? Sure. But this is a stunning look and definitely looks like Charity's interpretation of a Scary Spice look. Now, the judges absolutely tear her to bits. They hate her runway since it doesn't look like an exact replica of a Spice Girls look. They hate her verse because she made a bottom joke. They hate her performance because she stood out too much. She is reaped over the coals. But am I crazy for saying that her and Kitty were the best on their team? Does she stand out? Yes, because she's Charity Kase. And this was Charity Kase in a girl group. It seemed to me like the judges wanted her to be somebody else for this challenge. Come out in this cute pop girl look and do the number like every other queen does for this challenge. But I don't want to see that from Charity. She was cast on the show as the spooky, kooky, scary queen. And in my opinion, it is her job to take the challenges on and perform them through the lens of her drag character. And she did that. We have seen this challenge done by what, like 70 queens now? I don't want to see Charity do exactly what every other queen has done. I want to see Charity do it her way. Bring us something new. Now, I am so happy that alternative queens are being cast on Drag Race, but I can't help but feel like by doing so, they have to kind of tone down their drag characters and make them more palatable for the audience and for the network if they want to do well in the competition. And that's just not what I want to see. Why do I want to watch 8 queens all do the exact same performance? It was honestly a breath of fresh air to watch someone take on this challenge in a completely unique way and doing something all their own. Why is Crystal safe for spewing out Drag Race verse cliches? I'm skinny and I'm hot and I got a big ass and I'm skinny and I'm blonde and I'm hot. Hell yeah. Fierce, mama, fierce. That's literally her verse. Now the judges asked for personality. She gave them nothing, but she's safe. Charity oozed personality. She showed exactly who she was on that stage and they said, but that's not the kind of drag queen we want to see. We want this instead. You're in the bottom. Now, the mess that was episode 5. So the queens have to make a commercial, and Charity is on the team that obviously has the way better commercial, and they all just could have been safe, in my opinion. But we need to recreate the viral "no more H&M ever" moment, so everyone is up for elimination, and by doing that, it sets Charity up to be eliminated. Charity gets, honestly, pretty alright critiques. The one negative is that they wanted her to give something different on the runway since it's the same every week, specifically her makeup. And what I'll say to that is, what about Ella or Vanity or Kitty? I mean, they give the same face every single time. Now, let's look at Charity. She has given an entirely different makeup every single episode. Sometimes 2 different makeups in one episode. But because it's not the traditional pretty girl makeup, she's told it's all the same every week. But she's given 2 pretty girl makeups. I guess we just forgot about that then. Despite that being her only negative critique, she's put in the bottom. Crystal got worse critiques. Ella got worse critiques. Even Choriza did, since they didn't like her runway at all. But Charity is put in the bottom. Now, did she lose the lip sync against Scarlett here? Yes, hands down. But keeping Scarlett around after her fight with the other girls in Untucked is just a much more interesting story at this point. So they had to find someone else they were willing to sacrifice. We already know how Charity can lip sync. Probably won't fit this song super well. Bam, she's in the bottom, she goes home. There is such a double standard for alternative queens on Drag Race. Crystal Method got the same critique back in episode 1 of season 12, literally episode 1, that she needed to change her makeup. But she was literally the only queen that entire episode to do anything different with her makeup from one runway to the next. But because it's, quote, weird and different, it's not versatile no matter how much she changes it up. Charity casually gave us a rose, a zombie, a clown, a 1920s inspired glam, a soft glam, a cheetah, and a crazy fly monster. And none of those are even remotely the same, but she was given the critique that she needs to show more versatility, while Ella looks like this every single time. And there's nothing wrong with that. Ella's makeup is beautiful. Run with it. But you can't say that to Charity without looking at the other queens who just don't change their makeups, and yet you're fine with that. It is a huge double standard. Now, Drag Race wants to have all of the credit of casting alternative queens, but then won't expand the horizons of what they're looking for in the queens to succeed at the show. It's obvious what Charity does is just too out there for the BBC. It's too out there for Drag Race. So then why cast her? Why cast her for the clout and to bring her fans over to watch, only to then reject her form of drag and unjustly eliminate her when she doesn't bend her aesthetic to fit exactly the mold they are looking for? I want better for Drag Race and for the many alt queens applying and the ones who will eventually be cast. But in the end, it's all right, since Charity ate everybody else up in that promo. I mean, that is going to go down in the history books. So, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking about this season? I am having trouble enjoying it just because of how much riggery there is. It's giving me very Drag Race Down Under vibes, just with less racists on the cast. So, what are you thinking? Here are all of my socials if you want to check them out. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and as always, thank you so much for watching. It has been a long day solving the mystery of how long Charity's clown is going to haunt my dreams. The answer is until RuPaul casts her on All Stars. So wow, please help me. Alright, thank you guys. I will see you in the next one.